Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jedley. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville, located in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so very honored and absolutely delighted that you're joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. You can join us in our mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network, and they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Amazon Music, Audible, Player FM, wherever you find your favorite shows. Three wonderful guests coming your way today. First up is Shifa Saltagi Safadi. She is celebrating Kareem Between. Later in the show, we'll be meeting Candace Jones, the author of You Know What, Layla's NICU Journey. And Angela Smith will also be here to celebrate I Am Me, Unique and Free. Want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Astronaut Aquanaut, How Space Science and Sea Science Interact, written by our Dean of All Things STEM and STEAM, Jennifer Swanson. Journey from the deepest trenches in the ocean to the farthest humans have ventured into space and learn what it takes to explore these extremes. You might just be surprised by how similar the domains of astronauts and aquanauts are. I really love this book. It was one of the first ever Reading with Your Kids certified great reads. The photography is amazing. And of course, Jennifer Swanson's writing is just captivating. Your kids will be inspired. Astronaut, Aquanaut, How Space Science and Sea Science Interact, by our Dean of All Things STEM and STEAM, Jennifer Swanson. Join us right now from the wonderful state of Indiana. Our guest is here today to celebrate her brand new middle grade novel in verse. It's called Kareem Between. Please welcome to the show, Shifa Saltagi Safadi. Shifa, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
You are most welcome. Novels in verse, middle grade novels in verse. You know, this was a genre that was foreign to me, but we've had lots of authors on, and it seems to be quite popular.
Absolutely. I think it's been really growing in the past few years. I mean, I think I first picked up a novel in verse a few years ago before I wrote Kareem Between, and you know, I just instantly fell in love, like with the just lyrical language and the way you can tell stories shorter. And, you know, just once I started writing, it just felt like such a like new and fresh genre for me to, even though it's not that new, but I think it's definitely gaining in popularity, that it felt right.
Yeah, you know, we've been publishing Reading with Your Kids since 2017. We have 2,000 episodes are out there in the world. And I can't remember talking to an author about a middle grade novel in verse the first 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
A number of authors on celebrating. So it definitely is gaining in terms of.
Yes. And I think a lot of it has to do with like kids. I think kids have shorter attention spans, and novels in verse are like more like digestible reads. I think there's like white space on the page and then just shorter. And so I think like it definitely makes sense that they're gaining. I think it's just another way to reach more readers, more reluctant readers.
I think that's the key. It's reluctant readers are really drawn to this genre.
Absolutely. There's something so special about like finishing a book and closing it and that feeling of like accomplishment and like knowing more kids are going to be able to do that because the book is shorter. It's just such a special feeling. Like I want more kids to feel like that confidence and then want to read more and more after.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned white space. My beautiful wife taught for 34 years here in the Boston system. And so no surprise, we get loads and loads of books in the mail here, some solicited, some not. And when I show them to her, the first thing she does is she looks at
yes,
white spaces. And there's so many books that she go, nope, nope.
Yes. Or even font. Like if a book has small font, I think like, it's really difficult for children to get through. I mean, my own son, so I have a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, 6 and a 3. The youngest is a 3-year-old. And for my 13-year-old, he loves fantasy books, but just the small font for him throws him off. Like he can't, I think the eye strain or something. And, I think it's like like you said, like immediately with opening a book, I know like my son, if he's going to be able to like read it or not.
Mm-hmm. So tell us about Kareem and what's he between?
Yeah, so Kareem is a Syrian American. He's a 7th grader. And the book starts off with him at tryouts. His best friend has moved away and he really wants to make the football team at his school. But he fumbles the ball and he misses his chance, more like emotionally. And also, I think skill-wise, he still needs a little bit more practice. And so the rest of the book is kind of him wanting to make the football team, but he's stuck between a few places. So first off, being between Syrian and American. And his parents immigrated from Syria and he lives in America. And it's 2016 when President Trump wins the election. And so starting in 2017, President Trump passes the executive order that is nicknamed the Muslim ban. And so his mother, Kareem's mom, is in Syria and she is trying to bring her parents back because they're ill, and she gets stuck because of the Muslim ban. And so Kareem just, seeing all the rhetoric in the news that's talking about, the rhetoric of the Muslim ban being that Muslims are detrimental to America, having a Syrian refugee that his mother asked for him to help out at school, trying to make the football team, but also kind of feeling in between those places because he wants to make sure that he makes the team, but the jock is kind of like, being like, like making fun of the new Syrian kids. So he feels stuck between those areas, and being, the middle kid in his family, being stuck between his older sibling and his younger sibling as his dad's trying to figure out life without the mom there. So it's like all these different spaces that Kareem just has to navigate. And he just feels really, really, struggling to kind of find his place, find his voice, and, be able to like figure out where his place is in all this.
Wow. So much to dive into. I think it's important, for kids to kind of, we talk about books having this incredible magical power to be a mirror, a window, and a sliding glass door.
Absolutely.
And being an old white guy who grew up with books, with lots of books that, with characters who look like me, I always like to emphasize the importance of a book being a window and allowing others to see the humans that are, that we don't hear about. We hear about topics, we hear about groups, and this group is a problem, that group is a problem. I'm on team purple, I'm on team yellow. And
Absolutely.
Don't take the time to sit and think, okay, there are human beings here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think even like with my book, like I'm not like, I know a lot of people are, very kind of, wary of political topics or books with political topics, right? But the thing is, like, Kareem is literally just a 7th grader that wants to make a football team, right? And, he can't help but be forced into the situation when his mom is stuck overseas. So you really see that where he doesn't have a choice. These laws affect him and they affect him directly. And he just has to figure out how to grapple with them, how to, grapple with an American law where he knows he's home in America, but he's like, but this law seems to say that, I'm not at home here. So how do I grapple with that feeling? And how do I find my place as an American citizen when it seems like I'm being told you don't belong here, right? And then at the same time, you kind of see like other characters, like, I made sure to like kind of show that, everyone is just trying, every kid in this school, even the jock that has like bullying tendencies, he has his own backstory. He has his own things going on, and it, it shows you the complexities and the humanity. And that's kind of what I really, really like to get to in my writing, is just showing the humanity in these issues that, you might see the news, you might turn on the news and see a story, a topic, a headline, but just delving into those emotions, I think, is powerful, because we start thinking of like, what if that was me? What if I stepped into this person's shoes? How would it feel to experience that? And I think that's what makes books so powerful. Like, and that's what makes me love books, is the ability to, like you said, like, step into that window and take a look at what it's like to experience something else.
Yeah. It's so important because, we just hear these things on the news, and a lot of us, I live in a really diverse neighborhood.
Yes.
Here in Boston, but there are not a lot of Syrian Americans here, or as I like, Americans of Syrian background. And so this is not a story that I'd be aware of, through my neighbors. So I'm so happy that we have this book, and I'm thinking that this is a really important book to read or co-read with our kids, to start having some conversations about the topic.
Absolutely. I mean, I think like last study that was done about diversity in the industry, I think Arab books, and Syria is just a small, part of the Arab population, the like bigger census, and there was like 0.1% out of all books. And so, there, like you said, I mean, I think that, just being exposed to Arab stories a little bit more, even like the Syrian refugee kid that so Kareem's mom works with Syrians, and she helps refugees out. So the refugee kid is actually a Christian Syrian. And so I try to put as much diversity in the book as possible to kind of, bring awareness to the fact that even Arabs, they're not just one religion, one faith, one, like whether it's Muslims or Arabs, there's so much diversity that I think, like, I want to open up the reader's mind to more than just, a box or a label, the fact that there's so many different, even the Muslim ban, as it was nicknamed, funnily enough, didn't just affect Muslims, it affected people of different faiths in these countries. So, I just really, really hope that parents and kids, have these discussions and read this book together. And I think at the end of the day, it has enough of the enjoyable football themes that kids will be rooting to see, does he make the football team? Does he not? But at the same time, be like taking a peek at what it's like to be an Arab American.
Yeah. As you were initially talking and about the story and first said Kareem fumbles.
Yes.
And I immediately, my mind immediately went back to about 18 hours to yesterday when I was watching the UEFA Cup, and Ronaldo, the biggest football star in the world, missed a penalty shot. And he was so distraught. He was crying on the field. And I thought, wow, if that's how the greatest football player in the world reacts, I can't imagine what Kareem, how he would react fumbling that ball.
Oh yeah. I mean, football is huge in America. Like I feel like NFL is like one of the most top sports in America. And I think that was one thing I wanted to really do too, is like show like sports is so important, especially to middle school kids. And it's a huge theme throughout the book. Like not only does he play football, but he's a huge Chicago Bears fan. So the whole book is him remembering the Chicago Bears 1986 team that was just so awesome, and then comparing it to the current 2017 team, and then just thinking about the future team where he makes the Chicago Bears and takes them to victory. So it's kind of all those emotions, and just, I think every sports fan will really, really relate to that kind of very real, investment in like sports, and like whether you're a player or a fan, and really, really wanting to see your team win,
my heart is literally breaking here because the 86 Bears who ruined my Patriots' first journey to the Super Bowl.
Man.
before
You're a Patriots fan.
I certainly am. We're only about 20 minutes away from Gillette Stadium here in the studios. Funny thing about that was that series, the whole playoff series is the first and only time I ever made a bet on a sporting event. And
Wow. So you remember that year.
I do. I remember it because it was kind of, even I didn't have a lot of confidence. I bet the first playoff game and they won. I said, well, let it ride and let it ride and let it ride. And then when it came to time for the Super Bowl, I said, I think I want that money. I'm going to cash in. And, so I went on a ski trip and came home to watch the Patriots lose.
You know, what's funny is that in the 2017 year, while Kareem is watching, it's actually the Patriots are at the Super Bowl, and one of my favorite lines is like, he's like, they're really losing badly. And then they make a extreme major comeback and they win the Super Bowl that year. And he's like, you know, I might not like the Patriots, but something about their comeback really gives me inspiration. So, you know, why not? I mean, sports are just like, I think like, they're just such a relatable way to just, I think everybody, like, even if you aren't, you know, even my Syrian immigrant dad who, like, you know, never really, like, in Syria, they don't have American football. They just have soccer, what we call soccer, but they call it football. And, you know, we all still watch the Super Bowl every year. I just think it's such a big, like, American tradition to do. And I love that kids are going to be able to see it, like, play out in the book.
Yeah. Shifa, I just want to ask, you a question. I grew up listening. One of the reasons I love doing podcasts is I loved listening to radio at night, overnight radio. And there was a guy here in Boston. His name was Larry Glick, and he would bring the craziest guests on, people who were abducted by aliens and had these and ghost hunters and someone who saw Sasquatch. And it was just a lot of fun, especially for a middle schooler. And he had, I thought was a wonderful thing. Anytime someone would call up and say, Larry, I'm an Irish American. Larry, I'm an Italian American. Larry, I'm a Jewish American. He would stop and he would say, no. And he was first, he goes, when did you immigrate? When did you come? Oh, no, I was born here, and he would say, you're an American of Irish descent. You're an American of Syrian descent. I like that because it puts our unity together, where we celebrate our diversity, but we first acknowledge that we're all part of this family. Where would you come down on that?
You know, I think your question is really interesting too, because I think even Kareem grapples with this in the book. You know, he goes through thinking, am I an American, but am I a Syrian too? Because he doesn't speak Arabic perfectly. He, you know, obviously lives in America. He was born in America, and he's constantly grappling with like, how do I identify? You know, I'm not like fully Syrian, but also like, I feel like I'm in America, but like, I'm not like, you know, the people around me. I do have a lot of, you know, I'm Muslim and I have a lot of like Syrian culture tidbits. Like I eat different food. You know, I go to the masjid. I have different, culture. So, you know, he really, really grapples with this a lot through the book. And, even like one of the ways it plays out on the page is, you know, Arabic starts from right to left and English is read from left to right. So you see that because they're like on different places in the page. And by the end of the book, it merges to be centered. And he says, I am a Syrian American. And one of the reasons that I really liked having those two words merge into one word is because I felt like you don't give like one kind of like over the other. Do you know what I mean? Like both are just parts of him. They're both, you know, kind of like in his heart, they both have a place. And by kind of, you know, putting America as like his, you know, Syrian American doesn't mean that you're not American. I think it's like almost an adjective in a way, because, you know, at the end of the day, he does live here and he has his home and he has that like cultural background. And it's a way, like you said, it's a unifier. He's, there's going to be Black Americans, there's going to be Latin Americans, there's going to be white Americans, there's going to be Jewish Americans. And they are mentioned in the book as well when they all meet up together at O'Hare Airport to protest the Muslim ban. And so I think what he realizes that there is this combining American that joins us and unifies us. And even if we all come from different backgrounds, at the end of the day, we're all like humans together that are just, here to exercise our American rights, the right of protest, the right of free speech, the right of press, and all these things, to raise our voices. And, that's just part of his, I don't know that in general, like I would say that labels are like my favorite thing. But I think that to Kareem at the end of the book, it means for him accepting all the different parts of himself. It means that he is accepting that he has these different, cultures, but that he is just as much a full American, just like everybody else. So, maybe in my book, I prefer using Syrian American. In my life, I prefer using Syrian American, but I understand, especially I think for maybe like future generations as well. I was born in Syria. My kids are born in America. Probably their kids will be born in America. I think at some point, it does become more of a descent than a, like, I guess, fully like stepping into both roles. But, I think for Kareem, I think Syrian American just worked so much for him, and just kind of merging it linguistically and looking at it on the page and feeling like there are all these different parts just kind of fit together.
Yeah. I'm imagining that just that would be a great conversation for a family to have together.
Absolutely. And I think even for different families, like labels work so differently. My family might like to use the word Syrian American. Another family might like to use the word Arab American. Another, I've heard people say American Syrian or Muslim American, American Muslim. So I think the book in general just challenges labels, because at the end of the day, I think we're all humans. And when we live in America, we're all American, really. This is our home, and this is, we care about our democracy, and we really care about, the laws here and how they affect different people. And we care about furthering, our rights all together, because, we all rise together. And I think that's something that for Kareem really, really matters, is that he has these rights, especially when, he sees in Syria, like that, the revolution there started because people protested against the government, and they were shot because of that. They were hurt. So he really, really recognizes the importance of raising your voice, of using your rights. And I really appreciate that as an American, to be able to use my rights, to be able to stand up when there is an injustice.
And as we're going back to what we were talking about earlier, as this book is a novel in verse,
yes,
I'm guessing that each kind of topic is told in that one verse, as opposed to being woven into a narrative. And it's kind of, I'm imagining it would be easier just like, okay, let's deal with this section, this poem here, or this verse.
Well, interesting enough, with novels in verse, yes, it is divided into verses, but it's very much a narrative. So the plot works very, like, everything is kind of woven in to the story. So as you're experiencing the story, you're slowly getting different pieces of Kareem's life. You're slowly getting pieces of like what's happening in America, and you're slowly figuring out like what's happening in his life and at school and his home, and like all this, what it means to him. And so by the end of the story, you'll get this full package, but not necessarily in broken pieces, more as in definitely in threads. Like I would describe it as like, I often describe my writing process as like sewing, because I'm like sewing different pieces together and trying to make sure the thread stays complete through the whole book. It's not an easy thing to do, but I think it really strengthens the story.
Yeah, I agree. And I think folks should absolutely go out and pick up Kareem Between, pick up 2 copies, because you want to read this with your kids. I think that this is a super important book to have, especially as we're getting into the next few months, which are going to be pretty crazy. no matter where you are in the political
Yep.
spectrum. We have to have lots of conversations with our kids because others are having those conversations with our
Yep.
kids on social media, and we want to be part of that conversation. So what a great
Absolutely.
way what a great way to do that. Where can we go to find out more about Kareem Between and more about you?
Yeah, I mean, you can head to my website, Shifa Safadi at shifasafadi.com. And you can see there's a specific page for Getting Between. You could also check out my publisher, Penguin. If you type in Getting Between, it'll take you to that page, and wherever, it's sold, wherever books are sold. It's coming out September 10th. So, really at a timely manner, I think, for America. And, I hope that, like you said, I really, really hope that discussions are had, because at the end of the day, talking openly about our differences or similarities is how we come together. And I truly feel like Kareem is a book that brings us together. It doesn't push us apart. It's a book about how all of us can connect to each other and hopefully, improve our future.
Teachers, if you're listening, check this book out. What a great way to start the year off.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We've had a great time speaking to the author of Kareem Between, the great new middle grade novel in verse, from our guest, Shifa Safadi. Shifa, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
My friends, have you and your family been enjoying the Summer Olympics and you want to keep that Olympic spirit alive? Be sure to get your copy of Takedown by Laura Chauvin. In Takedown, Lev is determined to compete at the state wrestling championships. But then he's paired with a new partner, a girl. Lev and Michaela push each other to excel. But when they meet on the mat, only one can win. Takedown is a multiple award-winning and state list-nominated middle grade novel about families, friendship, and hard work. Get your copy today at bookshop.org or check out the free educator's guide at laurachauvin.com. Join us right now from Garland in the great state of Texas. Our guest is here today to celebrate her new children's book. It's called, You Know What? Layla's NICU Journey. Please welcome to the show, Candace Jones. Hey, Candace, how are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm looking forward to knowing and learning about Layla and her journey to the NICU.
Awesome. Okay. So, my daughter, Layla, is the inspiration for the book. And the book is about a little baby. It's in the perspective of a tiny baby who was born too early. And it just kind of goes through some of the emotions that she's experiencing and the different things she's hearing and seeing, and all from the point of view of this little innocent human that has no idea what's going on up until she kind of grows up a little bit. And then it just kind of touches a little bit on just how that experience molded her into this special individual, and her experience didn't break her. It actually made her stronger.
I love hearing these stories of young people and old people like me overcoming adversity and coming out better on the other side.
Yes. It was actually it was pretty healing for me also to just the experience of doing it, getting through it and doing it, and it was all so exciting. It was just kind of healing for me also to make fun of this, not necessarily fun of the situation, but seeing that the situation can be turned into a more positive situation than how negative the experience was for me in the moment.
Yeah. I imagine, and if it's not too difficult, can you talk? So this book is inspired by your story and your story of your daughter, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If it's not too difficult, can you talk a little bit about some of those feelings that you experienced when this baby that I'm imagining you were really looking forward to and looking forward to being able to hold and play with was suddenly I'm imagining taken away from you and brought to the NICU immediately on birth?
Yeah, so actually I was 27 weeks when I gave birth to little Layla. She was born 2 pounds, 3 ounces.
Wow.
Smallest little thing I ever seen. I don't even think I've seen a puppy that small. And so everything happened so fast. It was not expected. Even when I actually went into the hospital to to see what was going on. I thought I was having gas pains. I kept taking gas medicines, and I was wondering, like, why isn't this gas medicine working? And lo and behold, it's because I was in labor. And they tried to stop it, and they couldn't. So very traumatic situation. Everything happened so fast. I had a placenta abruption, and that's what ended up causing her to come early. So I was rushed into the OR, and waking up from everything, I think it felt more like a dream. Everything happened so fast, I don't exactly know what I was thinking. Just waking up, I was kind of like, oh, so that did happen? Like, this is real. And when they asked me if I wanted to see my baby, I immediately thought she passed away. I did not think that they were saying, like, in the NICU. I knew I was only 27 weeks pregnant. I didn't know much about preemies or the experience of, how they deal with preemie situations. I just knew that 27 weeks was entirely too early. So I just figured that, when they asked me if I wanted to see her, I was like, definitely not. I don't want to, I'm not ready to see her because I'm thinking that she's passed away. And then they were like, okay, well, whenever you're ready, the NICU is, right down this way. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. The NICU, that's where the babies are. Like, what are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, you had a healthy baby girl. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So at this point, it's like, I'm literally like at like a science museum. Like, I have to see what this human being looks like. Like, there's no way. I've never seen such a thing. Cause you got to think, if you've never been in this situation, you're not really interested in doing research on this situation. So, it hasn't been common, around me or anybody that I've known haven't went through it at that time. So I really didn't know much about it. So I'm like, I really want to see what this human looks like. She's still supposed to be in my belly. So this is what she would look like if she was in my belly. And when I first seen her, I just bawled. I just could not believe, like, it was such a miracle, like, that I was looking at her and she was breathing and she was so rowdy to be so little. And I was just like, oh my goodness, this feisty little girl. But after that, it was hard. It's hard every day, going through it and trying to stay strong and, just wishing for the best. And you have the most craziest thoughts, and you just kind of, have to give it to your higher power and just go along with it and take it one day at a time.
Yeah. Good advice. I can't imagine. Thankfully, we were blessed with two very healthy babies and two relatively easy deliveries. In fact, my wife barely made it into the delivery room before my son came out. That I remember I was her OB was a great woman, and we got very close to her, and it was as if it was so fast. It was as if she was like a catcher in a baseball game. She kind of just got down and crouched,
oh, wow.
ready, and here come went come out, and same thing with my doctor. We got to the hospital a little bit earlier with my daughter because I got yelled at for being so slow.
Yeah.
Well, they told us, Candace, I did get thrown out of Lamar's class for some reason. I don't know. But I remembered and all the things they said, and they said, it's probably, you got to take your time and bring snacks, and don't rush. You don't want to cause an accident. And when my wife felt the pains, I called up and they're like, it's probably not a big deal. Take your time. And so I'm doing what the doctors are telling me. I stopped for gas on the way. And meanwhile, my beautiful wife is screaming at me. She's like, my son almost got called Sunoco, born in the Sunoco station.
Oh my goodness.
But I can't imagine I think that I can't imagine the terror in some ways that you must have felt, like just being there with not knowing that your baby had survived, and then not knowing the next steps, and how is this human being that is so tiny going to survive?
Yeah, I actually have this saying that I always say when people ask me how did I make it through, I say prayer and coffee because I had other children at home and my mom was in hospice at the time. So literally, I worked at a hospital. So I was visiting my baby in the NICU at one hospital. I was employed at a different hospital and my mom was in hospice at a different hospital. So my whole life revolved in hospital hopping for the next like few months.
My goodness. How did, I don't mean for this to sound trite, but how did you manage? How did you find the strength? That's an incredibly difficult period.
Yeah, I feel like I was on autopilot majority of the time. And also I'm a very spiritual person, so I don't know where I would be without that. And looking back, I sometimes wonder how I did it also. I just never felt adequate. I felt like I wasn't spending enough time at home with my kids, and I felt like I wasn't spending enough time in the hospital with my newborn, and I wasn't spending enough time with my mom at the end of her day. So it was to the point where I wasn't even a priority. I was just trying to do everything that I needed to do for everyone else. And I don't know, like I honestly don't know how, looking back at it, how I did it, but I did it and I got through it. And that is what kind of helped me into molding this new initiative, Melody's Little Library, which we'll probably touch on in a second. But Melody's...
I was going to say, this, Layla wasn't your only experience in the NICU, am I right?
No, she wasn't. My last daughter, Melody, was born at 29 weeks. And with that experience, I kind of say that I am like a preemie mom pro. Like I was able to take my experience with Layla and implement it into the experience with Melody, and nothing really came as a shock. I was kind of like dull and willing to accept whatever was to come, and knowing that everything was going to sound as bad as it could, because when you're dealing with the NICU, almost everything, it's kind of like Googling things. When you Google something, almost everything says it's horrible, it's the end of time, everything is bad. And that's what it is when you're in the NICU. They always kind of want to give you the worst case scenario. Right. And then if anything better happens, it's like, okay, great. Well, this is better than what we expected. Right. So when I went through that experience with her, it was, kind of easier. And that's what helped me bring on this new initiative, the Melody's Little Library. And with that, I am hoping to be able to shine a light on women who are going through, not even women, I'll say parents, because fathers go through it just as much as the moms do when dealing with a baby in the NICU, but kind of to take the edge off of being in the NICU and going through the process of being in the NICU, and things that can help them through hospitals are really good at making sure that the health of the baby is okay and making sure that the mom is okay before she's discharged. And I feel like sometimes there's the smaller things that kind of fall in the cracks, and the smaller things are they're actually major to families going through it, but smaller compared to life or death situations, like financial help for the families. Obviously, if you have a preemie, you're going to be taking a little bit more time off than expected than your prenatal leave, and also like education, like reading to your baby while they're in the NICU. I know a lot of people know that it's good to talk to your baby while the baby's in the stomach, let them listen to music, different things like that. So if this baby was supposed to still be in your stomach, why wouldn't it benefit from still doing those type of things, especially when you have a NICU, the baby's spending a lot of time in the incubator. You're not able to hold and cuddle your baby like you would a normal newborn baby. So a lot of times all they have is your voice. And studies have shown that the baby's hearing the parent's voice, or any voice, is almost sometimes just as soothing as caressing or holding a baby.
That's wonderful. I absolutely agree. That's what we're all about here at Reading with Your Kids. I was one of those dads who read to my kids when they were in the womb. don't know if they heard me, but I hope they did.
I'm pretty sure they did.
So tell us about this initiative.
So right now we partnered with Temple Baylor Scott McLean's NICU on our pilot program, and how it works is we collect donated books, and we have a wish list and all of those things also, where people can donate gently used books, or they can buy books off of our wish list, or just.
Where can people go if they want to help out?
So they can go to my website, CandiceJones.net. That will have all the information on Melodies of the Library, and it'll send you straight to my Facebook page, or you can go straight to the Facebook page, Melodies of the Library, and Melodies is MELODY''S, Little Library, and it'll have the address on there to send. You can send books. It'll have the QR code if you wanted to donate financially. Eventually, I want to get volunteer groups out together to, go to different events to collect books and have like locations to, have people to drop books off, donated books. But you'll find all that information on those two platforms. And we are looking for all the help that we can get.
Wonderful. I'm so happy you were able to take these difficult situations and turn them into a positive for families that are experiencing the same thing.
Yes, I'm very excited that I was able to do this too, and it brings me so much joy. This is like the job that just keeps on giving.
Well, it sounds like you're a pretty special person, and I'm loving that your daughters are survived their journey in the NICU, and that they have you to cuddle with them now.
Yes, and I love those cuddles.
Yeah. We've had a great time speaking to the author of, Layla's NICU Journey, a very special woman, Candice Jones. Candice, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, wouldn't it be cool if you and your kids could learn all about emotions simply by reading a book together? Introducing Bella Santini and the Land of Everlasting Change, the award-winning fairy tale book that has captured the hearts of parents and children alike. Join Bella Santini on an unforgettable adventure through a strange and magical world. This book has been called a life-changing masterpiece that will empower kids and allow them to understand themselves and their world in a whole new way. It's winner of the prestigious Golden Wizard Book Award and the Mom's Choice Awards. Get your copy today of Bella Santini and the Land of Everlasting Change. A magical journey to emotional growth awaits. Join us right now from tomorrow. Our guest is in Auckland, New Zealand, and she's here to celebrate two of her really wonderful books, I Am Me, Unique and Free, and I Love Myself. Please welcome to the show, Angela Smith. Hey, Angela, how are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. Great to be here.
I joke all the time, but I think we live in such an amazing time right now that I'm here in the States. You are on the other side of the world. And through the miracle of technology, we're able to see each other, talk and reach out. I mean, when I was a kid, if I called a city 100 miles away, there'd be this delay. Hello, and then you have to wait for them. The thing is like a chipmunk ran with the message over, to the next city, and then it would come back. But we're living in a crazy, wonderful, and a little bit scary time.
I agree. I remember, I'm probably showing my age a bit here, the dial-up internet. And so we wouldn't be able to do this because it wouldn't be fast enough. Mm-hmm. So it's incredible. I'm a day ahead. I always think that's so fascinating. It's cool. It
really is. I joke oftentimes, like, we're talking to tomorrow. It's so cool. And speaking of cool, I think I Am Me, Unique and Free is pretty cool in and of itself.
Thank you. A friend of mine in America, actually, she suggested this book. She's an academic coach, and that's how I sort of start any of my books. Somebody suggests, why don't you write this? And then away I go. It's almost like it triggers something within. And I always like to write when somebody suggested something. For me, it's showing that there's a need. Uh-huh. So this book is a non-fiction book. It's got teaching points at the back of the book, but each page, like this page I've just opened here, I am calm like a bird drifting in the breeze. What things help you feel calm? And then we've got a beautiful dove flying in the sunset. So each page is meant so that children can then, or teachers or parents that are reading these books, or grandparents, they can automatically step into that feeling of calm, and it also opens up conversation.
Yeah. A book of affirmations. Here in the States, there was it's still on, a show called Saturday Night Live, and they did a satirical recurring sketch featuring a character named Stuart Smiley. And he was full of positive affirmations, and, it was poking fun at it. But I think they're important for a couple of reasons, but we don't realize that our kids and us, we're bombarded with messages from advertisers, from all sorts of people that are telling us we're not enough. You'd be better off if you had this brand of sneaker, and you need this, and you need this for your breakfast, and then on social media, and kids are very young and they're on social media, and they're hearing you're not pretty enough, and they're seeing these pictures of influencers and the pictures are all filtered and manipulated, and so much of what our kids are exposed to are telling them they're not good enough. And I think it's important for us to remind them how beautiful and wonderful and perfect they are.
Absolutely. And I think with what you're saying, it's noise and it's an overload. And so children can't always figure out what's real and what's not. And so like with this book and most of my books, it's about coming back to that calmness, coming back to owning their uniqueness. Like you talk about beautiful, and on this page it says, I'm beautiful like a flower. Everyone is beautiful in their own way. What makes you beautiful? And we don't often stop, to think what does make me beautiful. And it doesn't have to be our features. It can be our personality. It can be, many, many different things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that kind of formula with the affirmation and then a question to get the child or the adult that's reading it to think a little bit about themselves.
Absolutely. I had one client of mine, I'm also a massage therapist, and she said, I didn't think my 6-year-old son would be into this book. She said, but I was surprised what I learnt about him.
Wonderful.
I often find what I did with my son, I used to read to him regularly every night. That was a ritual of ours. And we always did 5 things to be grateful for way back before it was ever sort of a in thing to do. And it just does bring that togetherness. And it's like with boys especially, that's when they tell you about their day, just when you're tired. And sometimes I would fall asleep in his bed, but they're the important times. It's like kids are finally relaxed, and maybe then they can tell you what's been bothering them, what's been upsetting them at school or in their day.
Yeah. It seems like a lot of what you do is wrapped around and all about helping people find an inner peace, whether it's writing these books or offering soothing touch to your massage clients, coaching. What is it in you that makes you so passionate about helping people find calm?
When I was born, I was 10 weeks early, and my twin brother died the next day. And so I was in an incubator for 6 weeks, and I didn't see my mother. So I spent a lot of my childhood. I didn't really bond like you ordinarily would. I think they call it attachment bonding. And so I think I went through a lot of like living in my own mind, feeling alone, feeling like there was something missing. And so I didn't want other people to then go through what I went through, because often I think there are children that you ask them how they are and they say, I'm fine. But they're actually not fine. And so I wanted to find a way to reach those children or adults in a way that's not overpowering, overbearing, but that they can feel included and that they're worthy to take a seat at the table.
So many people who experience that kind of isolation or loneliness react with anger and lash out at people. Where do you think you found the strength to take those feelings and that hurt and turn it into empathy for others?
I think, as I said to someone the other day, we're the common denominator in our lives. No one else is coming to fix us or save us. And so it's up to us to look at what's going on. What can I do for myself? How can I love myself more? So when I say we're the common denominator, it's not to beat up on ourselves for where we've been in life or what we're going through, but it's like, can I love myself that little bit more? And that's what I needed to do, because I didn't love myself. I didn't like myself. I didn't think I was lovable. And if you ask a lot of children or adults, they're probably thinking the same thing. And so for me, it got to a point of so much hurt and pain that I literally had to really look at myself and turn it around, and I have.
That's wonderful. You also were also celebrating I Love Myself, and that's a great title for a book.
Thank you. I've got 3 books in this series, and actually I published this back in 2007. And I still sell copies today. So that's a testament of a book of messages that actually transverse time. And here's one of the affirmations again. I love myself. When you say I'm different, I'm still okay with me. One on the other page, it's got 3 children, one on either side of the girl, and both on the outside are saying, you're not my friend, whereas the person in the middle is saying, I love myself. So I think it's about teaching children to feel strong within themselves, that it's okay to love themselves, it's okay to like themselves, and other people might not. And again, this book has been used in many schools in New Zealand and Australia, and schools would take each double-page spread and they'd use it as a teaching curriculum. So they were like open-ended discussions, and they'd have illustrations, they'd do their own illustrations and have them around the walls in classrooms. So again, just gentle reminders that we're lovable. Like here's another one. I love myself. When you say I'm slow, I take my time to get things right. There isn't a rush in life. Generally, there isn't a rush, whereas we think we've got to get somewhere so fast. Whereas for me, and this comes back to reading with children as well, it's that slowing down time. It's those points of connection that if we're in such a rush, then we miss them. And I think the connection points are the most beautiful points in life.
So very important. How does it feel knowing, or do you ever take the time to think about the fact that there are hundreds, thousands of kids around the world who are learning to love themselves with the help of your books?
It's heartwarming. It's beautiful. I also write, as you may know, books for adults, and my Stepping into Love, A Journey to Self-Healing book, which came out last year, that won an International Book Award. And I just love that my messages, they cross over, because I'm so passionate about it, and I just think the world is a better place if one more person gets that they're okay, that they're lovable. I mean, that's huge, and I think it's really important right now. I think we just, as I say, we need to slow down, we need to calm down and focus on what is working, what we can do, and that we're all lovable, that we're all in this game together, and I always say together we rise.
Yeah. I think that this message that you're so passionate about, that we are all each lovable and beautiful, and we should learn to love ourselves. I think that would go a long way in helping the great divide that is occurring here in the States, and I think throughout lots of different countries, where we're not able, we're not able to agree to disagree. We have to, and if we're on Team Yellow, we have to believe that everything that the folks in Team Yellow believe, and if we divert it at all, then we feel cast out, and that's not healthy for any society, and it certainly isn't healthy for people.
I agree. I think we've lost. It's to find the points of commonality. We've forgotten when we're pitting against another person. That's segregation in itself. That hurts their heart, and it probably hurts ours. So I think we've got to get to the point. Where can we meet? Let's put all of that political, that whatever stuff aside. Divide doesn't help humanity move forward. There's got to be connecting points. Even if, like I said, if we say, often, I know you've got your elections coming up. 10 years' time, things will be very different. But those relationships that matter to you, that there's been a friction and that you've let fall apart and fracture, that's going to be hard to put back together again. So I think we have to, like me being a single mother, at the beginning, I knew that I wanted to have a good relationship with my son. I knew that if we had a lot of discord and disharmony in our relationship and in our home, it wasn't going to be a safe sanctuary. And so my intent was that I was going to take every opportunity I could to make sure that we both thrive. And I think that's with any of our relationships. If we decide that that relationship is important above all else, we'll make it work. But if we're, focused on tearing something apart, then it will fall apart. But place your focus back on your heart space, basically, because, as I say, together we rise. We can't rise when there's just all of this friction, whether it's in the home, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's out there in the workplace. Something has to give, and you really don't want it to be those core relationships, those people who have actually stood by you, because that's priceless, and you don't always get some of your friendships back that you regret acting like a tosser, and you know. It's choice.
Absolutely. Hey, I don't want to be a tosser, so we need to make sure we tell everybody where they can go to find out more about I Am Me, Unique and Free, and also find out more about you.
Thank you. So my website is truepotential.co.nz, or if you're in the States, it's truepotential.co.nz. And my books are on Amazon under Angela M. Smith. You can find me, my author. And also Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, AngelaMSmith.author.
Wonderful. We've had a really fun and enlightening time speaking to the author of I Am Me, Unique and Free, and also I Love Myself. Our guest has been Angela Smith. Angela, thanks so much for being with us.
Wonderful. Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids so much that you're determined to come back and listen to the next exciting episode of the show. And we also hope you're inspired to leave a review on whatever podcasting app you are finding us. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guest. I also want to thank my amazing team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Rory Grady, Judy Hu, Stella Sheree, Hannibal Sanj, Alyssa Montiero, Devin Hill, Riley Oluwu. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.